individuals. Dr. Nzuki, as a matter of fact, works with the Lagos State Biobank. Uh, we had so much wonderful plates of greens, as the case might be, and I hope you guys actually treated yourself to the greens. And of course, I met two lovely ladies, Ene and Sofiat Ayat. It was good meeting you guys. While I was busy just eating only greens, they were busy having a better deal with the buffet. It was nice. Thank you so very much. We look forward to building closer relationships, ladies and gentlemen. And that is part of the essence of forum and conferences of this nature. You get to meet new people. You get to meet people that you can actually build mutually beneficial relationships with. Please make sure you take an advantage of that. I'd met earlier on my very great madam, and we're going to be doing a lot together. Dr. Agnes Yemisi Asabra. Sadly, we never met when you were at Firo. If I knew you were the DJ then, I would have come knocking on the door. But I can be rest assured that this time around that you are DG of MBMA. I'll be coming with a very big pistol to be knocking on your door, madam. So much can be done. We are going to explore collaborative relationship on PRO media, communications, raising awareness about these matters that concerns every single one of us. The time is just about fast spent. We are expecting different programs that are going to be coming in, pardon me, presentations that will be coming virtually. And I want to call on my technical team to please be on cue. We have been Dr. Muyu Aino, ably represented by one of his or our director. We're also hoping the presentation virtually by Mr. Hamilton, Dr. Michaela. We also have from Professor Jimmy, as well as Emma Snaps, and Elner Conradi. All will be presenting. Finally, we will have our communique being presented by Professor Femi Obayori. But before then, we'll hear from our sponsors and partners and then call it a day. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. I have to be back. I have to run off to Abuja tomorrow. We have some other conference that we have to get ourselves involved with. My name is Stephen Lawson. Stephen Ipalebol Lawson, and some of you are asking. If you can't pronounce the Ipalebol properly, just stay with Stephen Lawson. It's a great honor and pleasure to actually be part of the 9th edition of the African Conference on One Health and Biosecurity. I started with you guys last year, and I'm glad. One of the areas I want to basically begin to explore more in will be in the area of bioeconomy. I will leave the biosecurity and threats to you guys. We still want to just be able to deal with some of the less dreadful aspect of these particular issues that has to do with emerging infectious diseases and One Health as the case is. But we know definitely that robust ecosystem that can stand strong, especially in moments and times where we will have challenges. And they will come, just as you've heard from some of the presenters today. It's a secular thing. It's what you call the circle of life. We're going to have all of those pandemic, but with this time around, I'm very sure it's not going to take us unawares. We are going to obviously beat it far before it even started. I've always said that one of the women I always honor is late Dr. Adadevo. She's a woman that, if you know me very well, even when I'm on my program, I actually sometimes give that credit to her. It's a fantastic thing she did. I'm not too sure if I was the one in that hospital that day, whether I would have sacrificed my life for you people. I would have run off, and then we all contend with whatever situation there is. But she stood and said, no, 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 this can't happen. If I dare open this door, that gentleman all the way would just basically go out. And we never had that kind of technology to do with the contact tracing and all that. And you know what Lagos is like, especially if you use Danfo or you take the public transport. Somebody can just be hitting you and all that. You will know that person is carrying Ebola, and that's how you take that to home, God forbid, and before you know what is happening. Till today, Sierra Leone, right? That was where it happened first. Still trying to cope with that, because these days now we are still trying to cope with 1 square meal. We don't want the situation whereby we'll get to a point where Gary will become, even Gary now self is even expensive. I didn't want to say that before the deputy governor, before they send me out of here. Yeah, but some of these things we have to tell ourselves, because you are members of the elite. You guys, you are all members of the elite. Every single person in this room, you are not a common person. You, as a matter of fact, you are the most distinguished delegates we've had the privilege of engaging. And that itself deserves a round of applause for yourself. Please put your hands together for yourself. The more you clap, the better the food we digest. You don't want anybody having constipation, you know. And so part of what GET Consortium and of course the Lagos State Ministry of Health as a collaborative effort for the past 4 years, so to speak, is to ensure that we not just have these discussions. Each one of us will take out from this and go back to our different offices, to our different places of engagement, and synthesize all of the content that we've listened to and see exactly what extract we can get from them, from which we can apply in our different operations. Because all of this is not just a waste or just a talk shop. No, these are part of strategic, you know, bridging of gaps. Because the more knowledgeable you are about some of these issues, when you get back to the office and you do your report, of course, there might be a presentation to other member of the staff, or, as a matter of fact, your MD CEO will be able to take that and see what business opportunities can be explored from that. And I know Concentric did quite well. I'm so glad they're here this year, and I'm hoping perhaps next year they will be there. That's to tell you some of the people who are behind a lot of these innovations that spawned out from COVID. That's to tell you that indeed we are dealing with people who are the shapers and the movers of this particular industry and this subsector as the case is. So to start up this last session of the 9th African Conference on One Health and Biosecurity Day 2, I would like to invite Deborah Anyado to please come up to make a presentation for the next 10 minutes. I'll be counting it so that we go in straight in for the next virtual presentation that is going to be on. Please, can you put your hands together for Madam Deborah Anyado? Clap now. You people have just eaten. Thank you. There's energy now. There's energy. Thank you, Deborah. All right, Deborah, this is good. I say you can be talking in a moment so that you can feel it, but your 10 minutes counts as soon as your slide comes up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Ma. Good afternoon. Okay, so it's a great privilege to be here this afternoon at this conference. Well, I've actually known about One Health, but the synthetic biology is kind of not so new, but I don't really know much about it. But I can say since yesterday that I've been here, it has been a whole lot of learning experience for me. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So by introduction, my name is Oluwaseunwayo Deborah Anyado. I'm a public health researcher, and I currently work as a research associate at EHA Clinics, Kano State, Nigeria. So I came all the way from Kano. Please clap for me. All right, thank you very much. So EHA Clinics, I'll just say a little about my organization, is a primary healthcare delivery organization. We actually deliver healthcare services, and we offer services like home care service. We have hospitals in, we have a clinic here in Lagos, actually, Novare Mall, somewhere around, then also in Abuja. So the organization is actually also keen about healthcare researches and also digital health researches. So currently in the research department, we are collaborating with, okay, I think my time starts now. All right, so this is a descriptive study we did in Kano State to evaluate the impact of mass media awareness campaigns on the prevention of Lassa fever spread in rural communities of Kano State. You would agree with me that Lassa fever is one of the viral hemorrhagic diseases we are battling with in Nigeria. And either we like it or not, it actually has given us several outbreaks. Although it may not like be, one thing about Lassa is a case is actually an outbreak. It doesn't, we don't need to have like 10 cases before we declare an outbreak. So just a case of Lassa fever is actually a threat to the whole community. So I'll be so fast. It's a very short presentation actually. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. So this is the outline: introduction, the aim and objective of the study, methodology, results, conclusion, and just a little about the organization. So by way of introduction, Lassa fever is a viral hemorrhagic illness transmitted by multimamate rats of the genus Mastomys. It is caused by a single-stranded RNA virus from the family of Rhinoviridae. I'm sure we have medical doctors or people that are medically oriented. So how humans become infected with Lassa fever is by consuming rats. I don't know if there's anybody here that eats rats. Anybody? Because I don't. So it's actually that's the way humans get infected when we eat rats that are infected, or we come in contact with maybe droppings, food that has already have droppings of rats, and maybe rats has breath on airborne particles from infected rodents. So according to the World Health Organization statistics, it is said that between 100,000 to 300,000 people in West Africa are infected with Lassa fever each year, and 5,000 of them actually dies each year. Imagine we record death of 5,000. I'm sure this is just like an average death. So imagine we record 5,000 deaths of people in West Africa. It's something that needs to be attended to. So as at April 16, when this study was submitted to this conference, there were 4,702 suspected cases of Lassa in Nigeria, 5 probable cases, 877 confirmed cases with 152 deaths. That gives us the case fatality ratio of 17. But as at October, the report on NCDC database says we have up to 7,772 suspected cases. I think we have about 9 probable cases, and I think 180 something, or 1,000 deaths, more than 1,000 deaths as at last month in Nigeria. So Lassa fever is a rural community-prone epidemic disease where illiteracy, poverty, and restricted access to orthodox treatments are prevalent. And this was what informed the study in rural areas in Kano State, where we had this study. So the aim of this study is just to evaluate, because I think the impact of awareness, people being aware of a particular infectious disease, has actually been established since the beginning of this program. Even the issue of One Health and biosecurity is still like, it still boils down to people getting aware of what we can do, how we can come in, and how we can generate maybe new technologies that will help us advance in our healthcare system in Nigeria. So the aim of the study is to evaluate the impact of mass media awareness in rural communities in Kano State, and these are the specific objectives. These are like the steps to guide us to achieving our main aim. So the methodology is it's a descriptive study using quantitative method of data collection. We had surveys, that's questionnaires for our respondents. We use multi-stage sampling techniques to select local government. There are stages to it, and we got the 400 study samples, that's the size, from using a formula that is there. So the analysis was done, and the study was actually conducted based on ethical approval from the Kano State HREC. So this is the results. Majority of the respondents were actually male, and I don't know if you are familiar with the northern part of Nigeria. There's something about trying to get data from women in rural areas, actually. So it could be a challenging thing to do. So that was why we had more of male respondents in our study. Then more than half of the respondents, they actually self-reported. Like when you ask them, are you aware of Lassa fever symptoms and all of that? They say yes, yes, yes. But when you go through the knowledge questions with them, you actually discover they had little or no knowledge of Lassa fever. So this chart is just to show us when we ask them how did they get aware, how did they become aware of Lassa fever, we see that the radio as a source of awareness has the highest percentage. Then also we're trying to get what preventive measure do they practice. It's one of the objectives up there. So we see that some of them said they keep their food covered and protected from rats. We have other methods preventive measures they practice too. So this is the perceived effectiveness of mass media in preventing Lassa fever. This was like asking them, do they think it's really working for government to like try to prevent Lassa fever through mass media communication in the rural area? So this is the response we got. All right, so in conclusion, we can derive from this study that rural areas in Kano State are actually reached by media effort with a moderate impact and a positive shift in health behavior. And also the radio is like the most accessible media through which the residents become aware. Therefore, we recommend that media campaigns through this channel be enhanced to provide information that will bring about further improvements in health behavior of rural residents toward the prevention of Lassa fever and other infectious diseases. So I would want to add to this, there's this principles of primary health care that says appropriate technology. So this is trying to like bring to our notice that even when we are trying to make any innovative development in healthcare, we should try to put resources that will be well appreciated and that will be culturally fit in a particular. Now imagine we try to promote Lassa fever preventive measures on televisions in rural areas. Yeah, it's actually a good way to try to prevent, but it's not going to be effective. Yes, even in the area of biosecurity and bioeconomy, our discussions since yesterday, when we are trying to make innovations and creative ideas, we should try and fit it into into the cultural context of Nigeria and anywhere we are trying to do it. Thank you for your attention.
You took that out. Please go back. Go back to the slide. There's something I wanted to mention there. My friend was just laughing at me. Where is she? Look at her. Anyway, if you can, let me just... Deborah, thank you for that abstract presentation. The fact that you said when it has to do with Lassa fever, you have 95% respondent as men. When it has to do with sharing money during that time, most of the respondents were women. Oh. But when it has to do with rats and Lassa fever, it's men. You people have now. You see what I was talking about yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. How men have been put up for sacrificial lambs. When they were doing, what did they call that program that government was doing? That they would give money to palliative or something. If you did the statistics, it would have been 99% women. Men were nowhere to be found. Please make sure when next you are doing these kinds of research, what are you saying? Make sure the women in the forefront when it comes to Lassa fever. We don't want men to be sacrificed like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please can you put your hands together for Deborah? This is impressive. Radio, obviously, in the north works, I imagine. In the south here, I'm not too sure. But that is part of the media mix that we need to explore in order for us to be able to get this message across. And I'm glad that you made mention of this. I think that's earlier on what I was engaging the DJ about. Media is very, very important. But for media to be able to have very good images, for us to be able to discuss matters that will help us in terms of references, we will need to fill up these first three rows. So ladies and gentlemen, anybody behind the first three rows should move and fill up this first, beyond this level. 1, 2, 3, where Deborah is sitting is the end game or the end place. So please, can you all move forward? Because we need the media to capture these images. We won't continue if you don't move forward, though. Yeah? Dr. Taiwo, please, can you help me direct them? Everybody should move to the first three rows. We need to occupy the first three rows, please. Because the images are not helping us at all. The images captured. The first three rows. Ladies in brown, you would have been the first people to have moved. Can you move to the first three rows? Why can Nigerians be very, I don't want to say certain things on record here. Please, let's fill up the first three rows here. The first three rows. Okay, madams, I will insist the three of you move to the front. The three of you here, move, come and sit down here. come and sit down. Come and sit beside. I want you, three of you here. Don't worry, I'll give you another bottle of water. Come and sit here. Thank you very much. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Are you media? And we are sitting on. Okay, move to the front. This is why they put men up for sacrifice. You know? Sit down there. All right, media guys, is this better? Please capture everybody's faces, so let them capture it when they are smiling. We don't want to see frowning faces. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Can't you see how beautiful you people are? Let us let the spirit and ghost stay in the parks, 4, 5 seats behind, and then have you guys who are alive. And since you don't want to live to 250 years, you know, you want to maximize your time here on Earth. Somebody sent me a medical alert information. Please pardon me. And the person says, NAFDAC alerts Nigerians to counterfeit injection in circulation. And the counterfeit injection is for the batch of Meronem 1G injection. So please, I need you all to be aware so that when you go out there or you want to share the message, it was actually spread through the news agency of Nigeria, News Portal. We want to be sure. These are some of the challenges that we face in this country where people are creating counterfeit drugs, all right? And this is a medical, so to speak, forum, and I think it's something we need to announce very much. That is the Meropenem trihydrate injection. It is an antibiotic used to treat skin and abdominal stomach area infection caused by bacteria and meningitis in adults and children 3 months of age and older. So please make sure you communicate that message so that we don't have any body falling victim to all of this. And perhaps next year we want to involve NAFDAC as well in some of these issues, because imagine if they were producing fake COVID vaccines. You know, that itself can be very terrible. We need to be able to work together and then tell some of our fellow Nigerians to stop this very, very deadly criminal act, you know. This is just not good. So please kindly be aware. And for further information, you can log on to the NAFDAC website or the news agency of Nigeria. This is how important communication and media campaign is. So, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker will be speaking on the topic promoting bio-threat reduction and enhancing biosecurity through regional cooperation, current efforts in the ASC and the SADC. And that's no other person than Mr. O'Neill Hamilton. Mr. O'Neill Hamilton is joining us virtually. I'd like to call on my team to see if he's already up. He has been on for quite a while. He was here last year. We met sometime last year. Mr. O'Neill's profile is on page 22 of the program. Can you hear me?
I am actually hearing you, but there is a reverb and an echo. I wonder if that can be fixed.
Yes. It sounded almost as if I was...
Well, it may not matter anyway for my presentation, just as long as you're not hearing the echo on your side.
Okay, you can go ahead with your presentation. Please, can we have a slide up? Or you will share your slides.
I am not hearing your audio now. I'm seeing you well, but I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
I'm hearing your audio now, but there is a pronounced echo.
Yeah, but we can hear you very well, so you can go ahead.
Okay. Is the presentation up?
Please, can you share your your slides?
Presentation on the screen.
Are you to share your slide, or we will share your slides? Dr. Taiwo, I thought I was made to understand that Mr. O'Neill's slides are already on the system.
I'm not hearing the audio at all. So I'm not sure if the presentation is there on the screen.
Yeah, the presentation is up. The presentation is up, and we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Yes, but is a presentation on the screen?
Yes, it's displayed. Promoting bio-threat reduction and enhancing biosecurity through regional cooperation. And then, it's on it's on the screen right now. Everybody's seeing. Can you guys see it? Please
Okay,
respond
no,
so that you can
I'm
hear.
not.
Can you see it? You see how happy they are to receive your slides. So please go ahead.
No, the slides were definitely sent, and so I'm not sure what the issue is, um, but let me confirm again. Are you seeing the slides?
Yes, we are seeing the
Yes, you see the
slide.
slide. Okay, right. Okay. Well, let me just say a very, very heartfelt thanks. Let me just say a very heartfelt thanks to the organizers of the 9th African Conference on One Health and Biosecurity. I am delighted again to be with you, but not so delighted not to be with you in person. As I think you may have heard, I made every effort to get to Lagos, but my visa was not available in time. Um, and so we have to use this medium. But I'm really delighted to be with you again. And just from the discourse, from the presentations that have been tabled so far, it clearly has been a very, very meaningful and beneficial meeting. So I know we're a bit pressed for time, and I really want to, from the outset, indicate that um, while a lot of the presentation will focus on some of the challenges going forward,
Do pardon me, please. Okay. Hamilton, can you hear me still? Sorry, I think we had some power issues up there. Maybe we're dealing with electrical threat, from bio to electrical threats. I don't know. Or might even be spiritual threats. Who knows? They know Hamilton's presentation is very, very, important. So please, let's just bear with our technical guys for a moment. I want to say a big thank you to every single one of you here. You are the ones and the reasons why this event has been very successful. Let me quickly say a big thank you to our sponsors. Brook Heritage Homes, sorry, Brook Heritage Holdings, Concentric by Jingo, and Penec, Affair, Abami Farm Estate, 4 Point Real Estate Investment Limited, Peter and Jane Limited, and the International Institute of Risk and Safety Management. And I know I saw Dr. Eugene Itwa earlier on. I hope he was around for the photo op with the Deputy Governor. It's very important that he has all of this captured. And a big thank you to our media guys, TVC Access 24, NTA, LTV, Singing Tree, and the media team for the Ministry of Health, the Office of the Commissioner, as well as every other media guys here. Please, if I've not mentioned your name, kindly bring your name to me so that we can have that mentioned. It's important to have it on the record because this session is being recorded, and when we have others joining us virtually, we want to be sure that we are capturing every single person that is making this a huge success. I want to personally also recognize Professor Femi Obayori, Professor of Microbiology at Lagos State University. Is the one coordinating, ensuring that all of the high points of the conference will be further communicated. I'm looking forward to your presentation as a way of wrapping up this particular session. And are we still on with Hamilton so that we are very sure on what we are doing before we go ahead and finalize for the conference today? Professor Jimmy Adegoke, he's supposed to be speaking all the way from Missouri, Kansas City, all the way in the United States of America. I want to believe he's going to be joining us as well. But we'll quickly have some messages from our sponsors, brief messages of 2 minutes each, and then that should be wrapping up within the 10-15 minutes. And then the communique shouldn't take as much as we have planned, and then we will call the event closed. My name is Stephen Lawson. It's been a great honor and pleasure to be part of the 9th edition. God giving us life. I want to believe we will celebrate a bigger deal next year. But I can assure you one thing, I'm going to be taking some courses in bioeconomy. That I'm going to take. Certainly, I'm not too sure if, as a matter of fact, the National Biosafety Management Agency has courses in that area that we can come and even take some training so that we can be best armed when it has to do with biosafety. Because I know one of the best form of training you can get in biosafety is when you hear the gong boha, you take off. Nobody will tell you before you run. So you run away as far as you can from the virus or whatever it is, and then ask people who are coming, whatever it is, after you've protected yourself. You know? So, but that is just being a little bit humorous. However, what it means is the fact that with the knowledge we can gain, we can be better prepared as the case is. And I can see one of my technical team with the hand on the head. It looks like this problem is bigger than we can imagine. Please give her a glass of water so that she can freshen up. And please, we should not stress her. It's not easy. It's been a lot of work. So are we good? Is Hamilton here? I'm not sure if I can hear him. And of course, I'll say a big thank you to Professor Godfrey and Tangwa for being here. Last year he was here, and he's here again. It's always great to see our elder scientists who are in our midst, contributing their own quarters, sharing also their concerns about some of the ethical approaches to which we deal with innovations. All of that are very key in order for us to make sure that we align properly. Just like you saw in the presentation of the Honorable Commissioner, okay, where he was talking about a Chinese man that was sent to jail for 3 years. Was that fair? Was it fair that the guy went to jail? You guys were not here when they were making that when the Honorable Commissioner was making that presentation. 3 years or something, I'm not sure, but I think he helped deal with the HIV issue with the kids, isn't it? But he didn't just follow the ethical part or approach. But 3 years might they're just giving him maybe like 2 months or so, you know, because he helped save lives as well. But that's to tell you how very important ethics are. All right, Hamilton, can you say something?
Yes, I am here.
Sorry about that. We had some electrical threats which we've resolved. So you can go ahead with your presentation.
Are members of the East African community as well as the Southern African Development Community nations. And one of the first things, as you can see in front of you, is the evident rapid diffusion of scientific knowledge. That is the background against which all of this is happening. Fact is that technical capabilities really have enabled many countries, including those in the EAC and SADC, to benefit from advances in biological science and biotechnology. We have seen, of course, commensurate improvement given that scientific advance in medications, medical procedures, productivity across the board, energy sources, and so on. However, and this again is the platform, the base on which our support in terms of our biosecurity initiatives and our awareness building takes place. The fact is that this advancement, these steps forward um, in terms of research, in terms of the availability and handling, have now posed a whole new set of challenges as it relates to humans, animals, plants. And so the fact is that we are now looking at vulnerabilities in the dual use space as it relates to dual use technologies that never occurred before. And so while these advances certainly can be employed for the betterment of humanity, the fact ability to access these materials. And so that provides obviously a different kind of if you will, awareness positioning on the part of governments and entities like mine who work on these issues. I had there in the last bullet research focusing the characteristics of anthrax or foot and mouth disease, while important for public health or agriculture, can also be leveraged by groups or individuals who are interested in using these pathogens, these dangerous pathogens, as weapons of terrorism or mass destruction. So, how then do these countries, how then are these countries handling this new reality? The fact is that there has to be, and there is, an engagement protocol which comes from an agreed set, if you will, of principles in biosecurity governance. And I just sought to summarize here, as you're seeing on the screen, 4 bullet points. Um, just one second. I hope that we are, as I go through the slides, I'll make every effort to indicate where we're moving to the next. So we should be on the slide now, overview of biosecurity governance. Are we on that slide right now?
Yes.
Are we at that slide? Overview of biosecurity governance.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead,
Yes,
Hamilton.
go ahead. Great. Go ahead, excellent. Excellent. So you're seeing the 4 points here that really constitute the basis on which these countries are engaging the whole issue of biosecurity and dealing with these vulnerabilities that I outlined. The first one, of course, being the Biological Weapons Convention, which I'm sure you've heard mentioned several times before the last couple of days. The other being United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540, which is my area of particular focus. I have worked on this for, for the greater part of almost 2 decades. And of course, the international health regulations from the World Health Organization, which is an important component of this, and again, the global health security agenda, which came a little afterwards, but also is a voluntary mechanism where countries can look at core biosecurity obligations and overall national security urgencies, if you will, that need to be dealt with. Next slide. So, what are some of the fundamentals quickly of the convention? Um, I won't go through each and every paragraph, but of course, one of the core things the convention, which has been signed obviously by Nigeria and pretty much all states on the continent, with various levels, obviously, of implementation. Um, Fact is that the commitment is not to transfer to any recipient or in any way assist, encourage, or induce any state, group of states, or international organizations to manufacture or otherwise acquire biological weapons. Um, Again, obligations relating to never, in any circumstance, developing, producing, or stockpiling microbial or other biological agents, prohibitions on equipment, and so on, and of course, obligations for states partners to destroy or divert the peace, the peace system with the with Article 1 of the Convention. Quickly, in the next slide, implementing BWC. How does implementing BWC promote and enhance biosecurity and biosafety? By, of course, preventing the acquisition and possession of these agents, which have the potential to kill millions of people. Also, there is very clearly a risk, as we saw obviously during COVID-19, as well as other pandemics, the risk that a catastrophic event can occur, given the fact that globalization, which has occasioned greater global travel, urbanization, certainly is impacting all our societies across the world. There is terrorist interest, of course, in WMDs, and of course, as I initially mentioned, rapid advances in technology. So specifically for the EAC and SADC states, the focus is on developing an effective biosecurity regime which seeks to reduce, among other risks posed by advances in technology, and also simultaneously improves infectious disease surveillance. It is also important to note, and I'm sure that there either has been a presentation or reference to the very, very excellent work of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Certainly, their most recent initiative on the Global Partnership Program to actually provide, if you will, a legal basis for engagement in biosecurity and an improvement in biosafety across the continent. Next slide. The fact is also that across Africa, threats and the whole notion of engagement in biosecurity is not a unidimensional activity. Fact is that there are many core dimensions, and I thought that within the climate change context, particularly since we have had a number of presentations over the last 2 days that have referenced this, that this very recent, only tabled in September, report from the World Meteorological Organization, basically denoting what many of us here are quite aware of, that Africa is responsible for only a fraction of global greenhouse emissions, but is suffering disproportionately from climate change. And I won't skip through this. I'll actually go through these points as a major takeaway because it will certainly frame the slides that come after. This, of course, is harming food security, African ecosystems and economies, fueling displacement and migration, and also worsening the threat of conflict over dwindling resources. The State of the Climate in Africa 2022 report, the most recent report by the WMO, shows that the rate of temperature increase in Africa has accelerated in recent decades, with weather and climate related hazards becoming more severe. And of course, the reality is that financing for climate adaptation is only a drop in the ocean of what is critically needed. More than 110 million people on the continent directly affected by weather, climate, and water related hazards last year, causing more than $8.5 billion in economic damages, a reported 5,000 fatalities, 48% that were associated with drought, and 43% with flooding. So that just paints in very, very stark relief, ladies and gentlemen, the whole scale and scope of the challenge. Now, one of the things that we have been seeing, certainly in the EAC and SADC states, is a very, very, very creative way of leveraging the BWC. African context. So in this regard, what has been happening in the EAC and SADC states is that ministries of agriculture, science and technology,
Hamilton, you have 10 more minutes, please.
which have primary responsibility for fostering biosecurity governance and managing biosecurity, really have been at the tip of the spear in terms of this work. They have also been very effectively leveraging BWC implementation to protect the environment and to really get their hands around managing and mitigating these effects. Um, um, as you can see on the screen, deliberate introduction of plant pathogens which directly affect food security and biodiversity. They have identified those areas of action as key nodes that will be focused over the next decade. Effectively managing biorisk to the environment, fundamental part of a national biosecurity system. Only a handful of countries have successfully moved to institutionalize this, but I can certainly tell you that there has been a very linear focus on this, certainly over the last 2 years. There's also an identified urgent need for SADC and AC states to develop and implement policies and programs that protect and conserve the environment through the conduct of risk analyses, which I'll jump into right now. You're seeing on the screen, the next slide, you're seeing this chart that looks at overarching risk assessment. They involve modules, pathogen risk assessment, local risk assessment, of course, identifying activities, specific targets, hazards, and so on, providing risk mitigation and management strategies. I'm sure that you may have heard, certainly from the Lagos State presentations and representatives, comments about this, biorisk assessments, identification of biosecurity risks associated with infectious materials and toxins. And the focus is, of course, determining mitigation strategies and so on and so forth. Having standard operational protocols, having effective manuals and documentation developed. Those are some areas of core deficiencies and challenges that the states are working on. The good news, of course, as I said before, is that they have identified them as critical nodes for immediate action, training programs, surveillance, and so on. Those are all core priorities. Next slide. So, as you heard me mention, in terms of the prioritized list of focal areas, training, community awareness, consultant research, policy advocacy, stakeholder collaboration, exceptionally important. And all of these countries really are placing tremendous priority on really having the stakeholders, the appropriate stakeholders at the table, and at the same time raising the requisite level of community awareness and sensitization. I heard, of course, the host speaking about the involvement of young school children. This is one of the areas that the EAC and SADC are focusing on, sensitizing children from the primary level upwards, um, about what the threats are, what the vulnerabilities are, and most importantly, having involvement pursuing careers in biosecurity. Next slide. Okay, core capacity building requirements. Um, and this, in terms of activity over the next 2 to 5 years, will be the core areas of focus. Implementing global biosecurity protocols, treaties, dissecting, understanding, intersect between health and security, biocontainment, biobanking, bioethics, and informatics. And there are, thankfully, um, over the last year or so, major moves in the bioinformatics area. And so we should be seeing a lot more of this in terms of core implemented programs over the next 48 months, fostering cybersecurity and data sovereignty and so on, understanding biosecurity threats, climate change, as I mentioned before, outcomes of climate change like demographic shifts, what the implications are for advances in biotechnology, the impact of bioterrorism, and so on and so forth. Focusing on emerging infectious diseases, biointelligence, and so on, and as a number of the presentations have also highlighted, the role of artificial intelligence, potential impact on biosecurity. So as you can see, a really ambitious area of focus, because in the implementation process for meeting obligations on the Biological Weapons Convention, the facilitation of dual use research simultaneously, the use of biology for development and for human betterment is also a core focal area. And this is something that the countries are also very focused on. Facilitation of national and regional gap and vulnerability analyses to inform policy development in terms of the global health agenda, and also in terms of obligations under the international health regulations as well. I shouldn't leave that out. Implementation of governance and surveillance systems to facilitate detection and identification of dangerous pathogens, having protocols in place to deal with bioemergencies and managing catastrophic circumstances as well, developing training programs for a range in a multiplicity, in terms of a multidisciplinary, if you will, train of interaction, not just in terms of frontline healthcare workers, but also across the board, including in areas involving foreign affairs officials and others within government. And the last bullet I have here, of course, is understanding agroterrorism and related risks. Next slide. In the last year, this has been something that has been an emerging important part of the areas of concern for East African community and Southern African development community countries. Having a look at agroterrorism as, if you will, a major component area in that broad spectrum on the bioterrorism or biosecurity. There's an acknowledgement that given the vulnerability that does exist with respect to African agriculture, both from climate change as well as other negative potential occurrences. That the whole notion that agroterrorism could be on the landscape should be
Hamilton, we have
something
less
that, from
than
a
three
policy
minutes.
standpoint,
Can you
that we
hear
should
me?
be looking at. So, just in terms of definition, agroterrorism or any biological attack against the agricultural industry and food supply really has been a growing concern across the continent over the past 20 years. Now, have we seen the
Hamilton, you have
requisite
less than 5 minutes.
policy responses and absolutely the requisite policy responses and engagement? No, that has not been the case. And as you can see from the bullets here, the potential damage that this can cause would be enormous. The US did an assessment, and the view is that even an attack that would not necessarily be, you know, involving all states, but just a majority of the agricultural states within the US would occasion losses upwards of $140 billion. Next slide. So onto the World Organization for Animal Health. Since 2017, EAC and SADC regions have really increased cooperation with this organization. Core intent, fostering biothreat reduction activities to minimize and mitigate biological risks, to effectively deal with emergence of zoonotic diseases, meaning diseases that are transferred from animals to humans, and of course, against the background of globalization and increase in movement of goods and commodities. There's now an urgent focus on heightening security risks from encroachment on and destruction of natural habitats, which is again a profound concern across Africa. Increasing national focus in each of these states on current threat that weaponized infectious diseases and biological toxins can pose to humans and animals, and the need for security policy personnel and practitioners to view biological threats more seriously. I'm just going to skip through this next slide. Modern day zoonotic threats. Simply put, zoonotic diseases caused by pathogens which are transferred from animals to humans. I have a little documentation here on the slide about instances where this, if you will, movement has caused deadly pandemic, SARS, MERS, and of course COVID-19. And so need for significant vigilance. All right, wrapping up very quickly. Next slide, way forward. And I'm just gonna go through each of this. These are the core steps, just in terms of overarching engagement for many of the EAC and SADC states. Developing national frameworks for disease surveillance, pathogen biosafety and biosecurity, and using an all-of-government approach in keeping with requirements of the international health regulations, providing access to expert resources through the guided use. And this is just an example of the Canadian analytical approach for development of a national biosafety and biosecurity system. And I must say that several states are already moving with great alacrity to put in place hazardous materials oversight bodies, providing a good regulatory base for this activity, providing guidance on the use of other international models, facilitating the development of national regulatory requirements for pathogen biosafety and biosecurity, and lastly, developing national policies for biosafety and biosecurity in tandem with the public health and security sectors. So that's where we are. I am not sure if there's going to be a question protocol, but I'll be open to any questions if need be. And again, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say a heartfelt thanks, even though I'm doing this by remote, for having me with you. And I certainly wish all the participants and presenters well as you conclude another very exceptional effort in the 9th African Conference on One Health and Biosecurity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamilton. You don't know how happy we are Please pardon me. This is me just being naughty sometimes. Uh, we are both happy and sad. Sad because you are not here in person. You could have understood why all of them are laughing. However, we still have two more presentations. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Neill Hamilton. I'm very sure next year, by the grace of God, we will ensure visa hurdle will be scaled earlier on. Dr. Dotun, please kindly ensure that next year, those who will need visa to come in, we start the processes earlier so that we don't miss their physical presence. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to get the next presentation by Professor Jimmy Adegoke, professor at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, building a climate resilient health system in Lagos State. I think himself or his representative is going to be presenting that. Please, can we have it up? It's my face I saw. Dr. Bawatunde, please, is Professor Jimmy Adegoke on cue or his representative? After that, we finally have Emma Snaps and Elnel Conradi, who will speak on the ISBA 5th edition best practices and any biobanking related topic. The moment we have that, we will have 1 minute each from our sponsors. And finally, the communique, which is obviously ready, will be presented. And then we can all have a group picture and then call it a day. All right, thank you so very much, Madam Fumi. Madam Fumi E is going to make that presentation. I don't want to bastardize your name, Madam. Please forgive me. Eyu Jibo, something. All right, can you hear me? Even the way you put your mouth, you know that I'm in trouble. Can she hear me? But we can't hear her. You can hear her? I would say whether you have sonic ears. We can't hear you, man. Can you say something? We can't hear you still. Can you hear me? She can hear me, but we can't hear her. Please say something. We still can't hear you. Please check your end, whether you are unmuted, whether your microphone is unmuted. We can't hear her still, but she can hear us. Please pardon us, just a moment. She can hear me perfectly. She even put perfectly, but we can't hear her nothing at all. Something, man.
I can still hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you perfectly now.
Okay, great.
So you have 10, 15 minutes,
Good
madam.
day, everyone.
Good evening.
I think I had already sent in my presentation to Dr. Bobadoye. And my task is really very simple.
Please share your slide. You can share your slide, madam. Share your slide.
Let's stand on existing protocols in recognition of the Honorable Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and the Deputy Governor in the person of Dr. Amza, the various members of the Executive Council, the Honorable Commissioner, and all other existing protocols. I'm standing in for Professor Jimmy Adegoke, who is unavoidably absent because he's actually in transit at the moment. So when you are listening to me, you'll be hearing the voice of a lady, but just in your head, translate it into a professorial voice. My task is very simple: to present Professor Adegoke's...
Sorry, Madam Fumi, can you share your slide?
Okay. All right, let me see if it is enabled. I had actually sent it earlier. Let me see.
Fantastic.
see it.
We can see it now, madam. So you can go ahead and share the slide.
Let me
Please, you have
complete
about
it.
10 minutes, more or less.
Can you see it?
Yes, madam.
All right. Sorry, so the presentation is on building a climate resilient health system in Lagos State. And it is a presentation by Professor Jimmy Adegoke. He's currently a tenured professor at the University of Missouri, Kansas, and a senior consultant with the African Development Bank. And it is my privilege to be able to present this to you. Sorry, my screen seems to be frozen. All right. This is an excerpt of some of the ongoing work that Ms. Titi Akosa had mentioned, and I must commend the Honorable Commissioner of Lagos State for his resilience. Let me use that same word that he had used, that we are using here, in seeing this to the light of day, because this is a process that had started since the COVID era, just immediately after the COVID era. And it is a process whereby the commissioner, in agreement with the Honorable Governor of this state, are looking at how to build a climate resilience health system in Lagos State. And in order to do that, we recognize the fact that there must be an understanding of the vulnerability of the health sector to climate change. So in recognizing that, it is important, first of all, to look at the contextual scenario of Lagos State. Titi had already mentioned the fact that there is an existing consultancy in place, and she mentioned all the people that were involved, including herself. Professor Adegoke is the lead consultant. We have Dr. Awove from the Lagos State University, and also Dr. Dotun Badoye. So part of the work that they had done is to try to look at the various analyses of Lagos State, the complexities of Lagos State, and from there begin to look at how resilience can be built into the system, health system of Lagos State. You will all agree with me that Lagos State's population, I think nobody really knows it at the moment, but I checked on the state's website, and the Ministry of Education, of Environment rather, listed it as 25 million and counting. This is a population that is predominantly youth. We have a population that is about 22% less than 20 years of age. And according to statistics, this population is increasing by the day. It is estimated that about 3,000 people enter into Lagos State daily. That is a growth rate that is more than 4%. That's 1.1 million people entering into the state annually. I mean, this kind of pressure on a landmass that is very limited, that is even reducing as a result of so many climate change effects. There's inundation towards the south from the sea, and then we have the pressure even from the northern part of the country. So these are serious contextual scenarios that places a lot of pressure on the health system of the state. Then we find out that there's a fundamental illiteracy about the nexus of environment, climate, and health. Because if this were not the case, we would not have people coming out during the rains to throw their garbage in the drainage channels. But because a lot of people still do not see the connection between environment, climate, and their health, then they do these negative practices. Then the state itself has a lot of environmental challenges. There's poor drainage systems. We have flooding as a result of the poor drainage systems, and also as a result of the fact that most of the wetlands that should have been buffers to and natural drainages have being converted for different developmental purposes. There's poor air quality, and the WHO actually estimated that the loss of GDP to Lagos State alone, that was as at 2018, accounted for about $2.1 billion. That's about 2.1% of the GDP of Lagos. And this was due to illnesses and premature deaths. Country, we still find that because of the population, the state is seriously challenged in terms of infrastructure. Then we also look at the various risks that are prevalent in the states, chief of which is limited resources or resource conflicts. The previous speaker talked about, I think one of the speakers today talked about, I think it was the deputy governor talking about the fact that they were talking about the budget for last year. And the Honorable Commissioner kept raising his hand and talking about what he needed and what he needed and what he needed. So there is a lot of pressure on limited resources. Then there's inequality in access to health facilities and resources. There's a lot of vulnerability and there's poverty. The coastal communities of the state, while the state is trying to put in so much, and even as mentioned by Mrs. Akosa, that they are rebuilding a health facility in Epe, we still find out that these resources are still, mainly inadequate. There are policy gaps, there are inadequate technical capacity. We have the external threats of the migration that I have talked about, and even the external threats occasioned by the Ogun and Osun runoffs and the dams and the associated flooding. We have sea level rise in the southern part and ocean surge. We have saltwater intrusion. This has been talked about so many times. We have coastal erosion, a study that was done in, I think that was in 2015. And incidentally, the Honorable Commissioner was a part of that study, looked at some of the coastal communities in Lagos State. And we find that, we found out that while, in literature, some communities were still being, mentioned, when we did an actual study of these communities, a lot of them had actually been washed off by the sea. This was a study that was sponsored by the African Development Bank. So it's in the public domain. And then we also find that from the center, now the federal government, we have regulatory exemptions for large and favored private sector actors. I'm not going to mention names, but these are actually risks that the states must bear, while the exemptions are coming from the center. But all is not lost in terms of, it seems as if I've been mentioning a lot of negative things. We still have strengths within the state that could be leveraged upon to build the resilience of the state, to build its coping mechanism, to help it return back to its original state in the event of an extreme event. The human capacity in the state can actually be a strength, it's a potential strength that the state can leverage upon. We have a huge youth population, we have indigenous knowledge, the state is cosmopolitan. And in some places, it has actually merged or almost overtaken some of the adjoining states. Ogun State is an example of this. So it's cosmopolitan, and that is a strength for the state. The state, unlike some other states, has been able to have some form of inclusive development. We have a Lagos master plan that is in place, and consecutive governments have tried to stick to this master plan and also tried to improve upon it. That is a strength for the state. The state already has a health strategy. There's a climate adaptation plan. We have the Lagos Resilience Strategy. And then the state itself is the largest subnational economy in Nigeria. So these are some of the strengths of the state. And within the state, there's a strong entrepreneurship culture that can be leveraged to help the state adapt. Still looking at this context, we have uncertainties and anxieties. There's insecurity, because whether we like it or not, while most of the insecurity that are mentioned usually relates to insecurity in the north, we have found increasing cases of movement towards the south. The pandemic itself is a threat to the state, because being a commercial nerve center of Nigeria, it is probably the very first point of contact, as we have seen with the case of COVID-19 and Ebola. All this is that there's an economic downturn. The naira is sliding, the financial markets are volatile, things are becoming more expensive, and all of these are the context within which the resilience of the health system must be built. Within the stakeholders, we find that there's a general lack of trust among group of actors. There are gaps in communication, information is diffuse, and sometimes is in silos. So different ministries have their own data sets that are not available to other ministries. And one of the most heartwarming things I have heard during this session is the SHIP initiative. Those of us that were online couldn't see the slides, but I know that it had to do with aggregation of data as a form of a public-private sector initiative. And we also learned that it is not primarily only health data, because as we can see, the context of the state is quite dynamic, and all of it must be taken into account when we are talking about data sets that would affect the health systems, or that would be used in building the resilience of the health system. There's also the fact that most of the policies and strategies needs to be appropriately mainstream, gender mainstreamed. There's a need for local community participation and leveraging on the private sector potential. Lagos State has been doing very well and has actually been an exemplary example of the PPP initiative. But within the health sector, we need to see more of this in order to build the resilience of the sector. We must also consider sector-based thinking, so that, for this to work, the Ministry of Transportation cannot work alone. The Ministry of Health, that wants to build the resilience of the health system, must be able to sit down with the Ministry of Transportation. They must be able to sit down with the Ministry of Physical Planning as it affects drainages and so they must be able to sit down with Ministry of Environment, to be able to sit down with some resources, so that waterborne diseases can be contained or taken into account in building the resilience of the state. So these, I'm just painting the picture of Lagos State and all of the things that must be taken into account in order to build a resilient health system. And these are the things that the consultancy is looking at. So in order to plan and understand the vulnerability of the Lagos State health sector to climate change, there's a
Hello,
need
Madam
to
Fumi,
develop
you have 5
an
minutes more.
overall scoping framework that will capture the major climate and environmental health.
You have 5 minutes more, madam.
All right, thank you. And then assessing the adaptation needs with the One Health approach in focus by integrating the domains of environment, health, and animal health with the available infrastructures, by strengthening disease surveillance systems, especially at the foundational primary care level. The essence of this whole system would be to be able to have knowledge and innovation outputs that would, that would include decision support tools, platforms for integrated resource management. Because when, the chips are down, it is the money that speaks. So how are these resources mobilized? How are they integrated across the different contending issues and the different contending ministries for these resources? How do we develop and define indicators and indices that will connect health and environment? These are some of the knowledge and innovation outputs that we hope will be developed as one of the outputs from for building the resilience of the health system. Then we are looking at policy and governance outputs, application outputs that would model scenarios, that would have platforms for assessing transformation of livelihoods, that would be able to have metrics for measuring the performance of the SDGs, for the frameworks for resilience measurement, monitoring, and assessments. And then, one of the critical things that we have discovered and we have said must be clearly highlighted is the need for a regional partnership between the government of Lagos State and other southwestern states, especially for health and environmental surveillance. Because when people come in from Ogun State, they come in from even from as far up north as Ondo State and all of that. There is a need for all of the commissioners of these different states to sit together and find out what is occasioning this migration into the state. Because if the things that people are coming to look for in Lagos State can be situated in the other southwestern states, then the pressure on the state due to the migration would be reduced. Then we cannot leave out capacity building in building the health system, in building the resilience of the health system. The need for, trainings, for proposal development, how to access climate finance, how to mainstream gender into policies and even implementation plans, how to, implement the One Health agenda, how to, facilitate different stakeholder engagements at the primary health care level, developing curriculum, even with local and international institutions that would help to transform the state. Looking at the state university, for example, and seeing how curriculum can be developed that would create a pipeline of professionals and much needed hands within the healthcare systems that can be engaged within the state, and having platforms that would help to mobilize and leverage on diaspora expertise. The engagement of Professor Adegoke is one of this, is a demonstration of this kind of leveraging and mobilization. But we need to see more of it, within the state in order to help to build the resilience of the healthcare system. I will not dwell too much on this climate finance readiness, but Lagos State is big enough to be able to develop its own capacity and apply to be an entity that can attract climate finance. So in order to do this, the approach will be for the state and for whatever instruments the state puts together to look at the relativity of the states in terms of taking into consideration the state's socioeconomic and geographical, geopolitical characteristics, having a responsive readiness plan that will be appropriate to the needs, to the priorities and the challenges of the state, and also a readiness plan that will be reasonable. That is, it factors in key issues and challenges and identifies practical steps that can be taken. So as a result of all this, the consultancy that has been put together by the Honorable Commissioner for Health of the state has, even within it, a lot of climate finance experts that are helping to develop and identify instruments by which blended finance can be put in place and attracted to help to build the resilience of the health system of Lagos State. And the target of that consultancy is to be able to attract up to 10 billion new resources for strengthening health and climate resilience in Lagos State. It is a tall order, but it is doable because there are so many opportunities that are passing the country by, and Lagos State is appropriately positioned to be able to tap into all of this resources.
2 more minutes, madam. Thank you.
Overall, the purpose of the resilient health system would be to improve livelihoods and well-being, would be environmental sustainability within the state, to create a nexus thinking for health and environment, to create resilient livelihoods and communities within the state, to look at equitable, sustainable development and cross-sectoral resource management, not managing resources in silos, improved participation of all stakeholders within the health system, looking at improving health and environment literacy across all levels of the society, and making sure that the resources that are attracted within the state begin to deliver dividends that would help communities, that would help livelihoods to bounce back when and if there is any form of a distortion within the system that is occasioned by climate change. So with this few slides, I have come to Professor Adegoke's presentation. And once again, I thank you for the honor of making the presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Fleming. Please do extend our courtesy and appreciation to Professor Adegoke. Because when I called 2 more minutes, everybody here was like, I was wondering when the was like, did you think I was adding 2 more minutes to Adeste?
I'm done with the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. AY, please, can you? She can't hear me. All right. So thank you so very much, madam. We will quickly now go to the next presentation, and that is the final for the night. That is by Emma Snaps, who is a biobanking consultant with over 25 years of expertise in the creation and management of biological and data collections across various sectors. And then Dr. Elnell Conrady is an experienced professional chemist with a PhD in environmental science and management, currently specializing in biobanking and quality management at Northwest University Center for Human Metabolomics. Details of their profile is on page 26 of the program. Please, let's have Emma and then Conrady as they make their presentation. Technical guys, please, can we have their slides up? They'll be speaking for the next 20 minutes, 10 minutes each, and then will we have that wrap up? Emma and Elne, are you hearing? Emma and Elne, are you hearing?
Hello, everybody. This is Alna Conradi speaking. Can you hear me?
All right, so
good, thank you.
Over to you. All right, so you have 20 minutes in total, 10 minutes each. All right, so thank you very much. All right, so thank you very much. All right, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present to you today. So I'm a little bit quicker than the 10 minutes. I want to give a bit more time for my colleague to talk on the best practices. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the International Society for Biological and Environmental Repositories. So the vision of ISPER is to be the leading network in a global biobanking and biorepository community. And the mission is also to be able to advise and be experts and to give a quality objective and a way for biorepositories to measure their quality in the biobanking science worldwide. On a personal note, I'll give you a little bit of a short story there. So ISPER is on 4 regions, and I am the Director at Large for the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. ISPER contains 6 different categories, so it's not just human biospecimens, it's also animal specimens, microorganisms, environmental repositories, museum repositories, and also biodiversity or plant and seed repositories. So ISPER memberships is really valuable. For me personally, it meant my biobank could be able to know exactly what is a quality biobank should look like, and what you have to, what sort of rules you have to adhere to, or best practices on an international standard. So being from a national researchers that wants to make use. So biobank is not just a freezer in the corner, it's much more than that. It is surrounded on ethical collection of samples and processing thereof. It's the storage and long-term preservation of the samples to be able to get a quality sample for researchers that you're able to share, and to share the associated data and clinical information in an organized manner to the wider research communities. Biobanking has a value in it that it allows multidisciplinary approaches, and what I've heard from the previous presentations, I can see that Nigeria really focuses on incorporating environment as well as social, economic, and health impacts. So all of this multidisciplinary research makes it a very big value for you to be able to have a repository that has good quality samples in it. So ISPER has a lot of tools available to help a biobanker to establish a good quality resource. We have an upcoming meeting in Australia next year. If you want to participate there, ISPER offers membership at discounted rates for African countries, and Nigeria qualifies for a 50% discount in membership fees. And through that, you also get discounted rates for traveling to annual meetings, and we also you can also apply for a grant, a travel grant, to attend these meetings. There's a number of different tools that ISPER has to offer, and once again, once you are a member of ISPER, all of these are also available to you free of charge, or it is at a discounted rate. So Emma Snipes will be talking on the Best Practices 5th edition, which is like the very big quality book that you can use to set up your repository. There's also the biobank assessment tools that we have that you can evaluate yourself to see if you are on the right track. There's a QBRS exam that's for persons that have been doing biobanking for at least a number of years. And you can do this course and do the exam and be qualified as a biorepository person, and it's internationally recognized. There's also other courses that you are able to do to help you develop your skills as a biobanker, which includes the essential for biobanking tools. And everybody that works in the medical field will know about proficiency testing and external quality assurance, and that is also offered as one of the tools. So without undue delay, this is a very brief summary of the biobank assessment tools, but I want to give over to my colleague Emma Snipes to talk to you a little bit more on the Best Practices 5th edition.
So let me just bring up my screen. Hello, and thank you very, very much, everybody, for the opportunity to be with you here today. I will give you a little bit of an overview on the development of the 5th edition of the ISBER Best Practices, which is a collection of practices that have been in place for a number of years. And is that working now? I beg your pardon, I think that this has been paused, so let me get this operating. Yes, here we go now. Okay, so I know it's been a really long day, but the finish line is close at hand. So as Elna has already explained to you, the ISBER is the International Society of Biological and Environmental Repositories. It has diverse membership over 60 countries, representing 6 different biobanking categories. And one of its goals is the development of best practices for the area. So it was first developed in 1999, ISBER was, with the key objective to develop harmonized principles in science and management of repositories. So the goal was to provide for the ISBER best practices. It was, the document itself was to provide professionals with a comprehensive foundation for the guidance of repository activities. So it was the first edition came out in 2005, and it marked a significant milestone, establishing repository professionalism with a comprehensive foundation. And over the years, we have built upon each edition to further develop new guidelines. Over the years, as you can see, the second edition 2008, third in 2012, and fourth edition in 2018, and this edition currently in 2023. And one new big step in the 5th edition development was the element of community feedback. So it was quite important. Users had felt about the documents that were developed for the 4th edition, and to identify whether there were gaps or where there were areas that could bring in improvement. So by ascertaining those new perspectives, we were able to involve more voices in the best practices, and including those for the development of the 5th edition. So each edition reflects the collective experience of the ISBER members at that moment in time, which is why it's so important to keep developing and keep updating the document as time goes by. So I just wanted to show you over the next couple of slides that there are quite a large number of people who have been involved from the point of view of the development team structure. As we had a steering committee that were able to align the work with the guidance of the board of directors, and they provided the vision and strategy for the development of the 5th edition with the community feedback from the various different people who are users of the document, and we had contributors and reviewers working with the editorial board, so that consisted of myself and a number of associate editors, in order to input that vision and strategy guided by the steering committee and to create the 5th edition. So this is the who's who of the editorial board, with myself there on the left, and I was capably joined by a number of different people from various different locations around the world in order to help work and guide the contributors and the reviewers in the right way to develop the standard. And these have been amazing colleagues over the last 2 years, without whom the 5th edition could not have evolved. And I will also extend this to the contributors and reviewers who have been involved, because this is largely a voluntary effort. Nobody beyond myself is paid to actually do this work. So the contributors work in section teams. Each chapter is called a section. So they're guided by their section leader and associate editor, and we work in different writing phases with team meetings and cross-team projects. And they work on the active content development. And throughout the whole process, then we go out to reviewers to determine their individual. They mainly work as individuals. They're guided by myself during the process, and they review at different phases, and they review the templates and provide a review of the comments. So the aims of the ISBER Best Practices 5th edition were really to provide a common language for a common understanding of biobanking, which, as you can imagine, when you were speaking about numerous different countries right around the world and across different fields of expertise, can be quite challenging actually at times. And we also wanted to provide practical advice to manage and support all repository types to improve quality management in terms of driving fitness for purpose of specimens and data, so that the research can be performed in a way that actually is reproducible. So it's guidance to improve repository internal policy plans and procedures so that they are cohesive, and to assist in the creation and optimization of practices. So the current edition has an overall objective of repository resilience, providing that element of resilience for a repository. And this is the element of coherence that I spoke about, by using the 5th edition as a platform on which to develop and even improve existing policies, practice, procedures, and operations. A repository would gain confidence and that things are being done in the right way. So just giving you a very quick overview of the updating process. The first step was that community outreach and feedback, where we actually performed a gap analysis on the with the help of our users, our previous users of the 4th edition, to understand exactly what they wanted to see in the 5th edition. So the teams were onboarded then in March of 2022, and then we had a number of write and reviewing processes or phases in order to develop the document over time. And that has gone through proofreading and board of directors approval, and we're currently going out for publication, and we hope to have it published very early in December. So really, one of the new elements that we've included for this edition of the best practices is to assess, is to have a system to formally evaluate the practices for inclusion. So we have used an existing tool for that, and this is a tool that can be used for the development of new policies or other types of interventions that you may be working on as well. So you may find this tool quite useful in your own work. It's being developed by the OECD DAC network on development valuation, and it's called the EvalNet. tool, and it has 6 different evaluation criteria, and they're listed there, and we have, the source is provided there at the end of the slide. And the 6 different criteria are the relevance, effectiveness, impact, the element of coherence, which is how well does the intervention fit with other advice and standards and regulations that are already out there, and efficiency and sustainability. So I won't go through those in detail, but just to reiterate that element of external coherence, we needed to be, we cannot be absolutely aware of all the different types of regulations that are in place all around the world, as you can imagine, because they're constantly evolving, they don't stand still, and they may actually offer even conflicting advices or systems in different countries. But we understand that that is what is mandated by law, and that's what people have to follow first and foremost. And then there are other obligations that people will have, biobanks and repositories will have, in terms of access to the samples and data, and maybe reporting, maybe for financial systems, etc. And that is often stakeholder driven. Standards themselves are then discretionary at times and maybe end user driven. So that's often things like ISO standards, the International Standardization Organization. And then guidelines is where the ISBER best practices follow. They're discretionary and they're often organization or sector driven. So so existing standards guidelines and their applications have been considered during the making of this and during the development of the 5th edition. So it's fair to say that the 5th edition features is that it's universal. It's hoped that it has global application right around the world. It pertains to all different biobanking category types. So that includes 6 categories that Elna mentioned that ISBER concerns itself with. It is consensus driven. It has heard the message and the feedback provided by many different users, different contributors who are experts in their areas, different reviewers, and actually evolved to pull out a consensus message for each practice that has been provided. It has been assessed for the first time formally using specific criteria that I mentioned, the OECD DAC EvalNet tool, and it is part of an ecosystem of resources that is provided by ISBER, and Elna alluded to those, including the biobank assessment tool, the BAC tool, the education tools, and the competency, personal competency evaluation tools, QBRS. So what I just want to give is a very quick overview of the revisions that have happened or been incorporated in the 5th edition. So there's been quite a change to the section or chapter order if you're used to the 4th edition best practices and the structure of that, so that it now follows the phases of a repository and even the life cycle then of specimens and data. And certain topics have been moved to different sections in order to fit well with that. So different sections have been merged or retitled, such as there was a cryo storage addendum for the 4th edition, and that has been integrated right into the 5th edition. So it's one single document now. Quality management has been, that section has been merged with the method validation and quality control considerations, and quality and cost management has been merged within the planning and governance and management section, which is the first section that you encounter in the document. And then there are new and expanded sections, including risk and continuity management. So that element of risk is really being brought to bear as a single section, where it was previously mentioned right throughout the document. It's now singularly addressed within an individual section. The element of competency has been aligned to training of personnel. So that's quite an important element, that element of knowing that somebody can actually do as they have been trained to do. In communication and promotion, a number of different people have spoken about the importance of stakeholder engagement, and how that happens is really, really important. And promoting a biobank or a repository so that people know it's there and that it's accessible for the for its use in research. and a section on information management that has evolved from just a LIMS or a repository information management system. So that section on data, that element, so there are different trends and different concepts within this section, and the trends are to focus more on the data because all repositories of samples are really valued for the data that can be elicited from them. That element of fitness for purpose, knowing that there is sufficient quality there to actually satisfy the researchers for reproducible and quality-driven research. And terminology, speaking about the different terms and wordings that are used for that common understanding right throughout the world. So just wanted to actually say that there's, for some advice about applying the best practices within your own biobank, you could identify which practices are relevant, and that might be based on your own biobank characteristics, its purpose, the size of it, size of your organization, and the different regulations that you have to already follow. You prioritize the implementation of those practices based on your own strategies and goals, risks and resources and key stakeholder needs. And you develop repository policies and procedures and built-in practices based on those, the best practices that are mentioned within the document. And you target areas then for further development towards best practices that are not initially attainable. So it's really by using the 5th edition of the best practices that we guide the repository path to efficient, effective operations and hopefully long-term success. So for a new document user, it's important to know that the document is made up of a number of interdependent but standalone specific sections. So if you want to go to the section just on ethics, legal and social implications, you can go straight there. And you will see numerous cross-references in each of those sections to other sections for associated relevant topics. Other than that, you can go to the table of contents to find what you're interested in, and there are various section references and internet resources. And again, the document is based loosely according to the initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure of a biobank, the various different life phases. So the existing best practices user, as I've already said, may consider changes in structure that have been made to the document, looking at new and updated content, knowing that the terminology might be different. So it would be useful to go and review the relevant definitions that have been provided and to update your own documents to reflect those definitions if relevant. And further actions then that you have your staff read the new edition and determine any new updates needed in your repository processes based on that, on the new editions. And this is something that Ellen has already referred to. There's one very critical note that I wanted to share with you, that the ISBRS Best Practices 5th edition isn't locked behind any paywalls or red tape. As always, it is freely accessible for all for downloading, and it's a reflection to ISBR's commitment to collective growth and progress of biobanks worldwide. And the celebration today is not just about the printed pages of the document, but it's a celebration of the collaborative spirit of the many volunteers and repository professionals who have shared their expertise, the visionary leaders who guide us, and the effective communication that helps to bind us as a community. And hopefully as we look ahead, we can hold on to this spirit, embracing the continuous evolution and the wisdom of our collective efforts and the innovation that's yet to come. So I think that the ISBR Best Practices 5th edition stands as a beacon within biobanking, reminding us together that we can redefine what is possible. I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the best possible outcome from the meetings over the last 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Conradi. You have no idea of how excited we are here. We are actually thanking you too for your consideration as it is. We hope perhaps we're going to get your slides sent. Please, technical guys, make sure you reach out to them. Tommy, reach out to them to make sure we have their slides. because that presentation needs to be communicated further. Thank you if you're hearing me. The, the final presentation will be for the next 1 hour, and that is going to be by one of our sponsors, Penec. Penec and the sales manager, Mr. Austin William, is coming forward to speak. Please put your hands together for him. All right, please make sure you speak for 1 hour. All right. Somebody told me that they're not ready to leave, so just make sure it's 1 hour you speak for.
Imagine having to choose between a pink star diamond, the world's most expensive jewel.
Good evening, everyone. All due protocols observed. My name is Austin, and I would be representing Penec. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you to organizers of a privilege to be a co-sponsor. Considering the fact that it's health, we understand that it affects every human, everybody on Earth. So we are actually privileged to be co-sponsors, and we, as a brand, we would like to also see how we can get more involved in next year's GET Conference 2024. So Penec in 3 words is basically real estate management and development. Now we take pride in we build luxury homes in key areas, in key locations in Nigeria, Lagos, Abuja, and Houston. So now I'm just going to run a video. A video will just play, and then that video will just highlight those locations we have and what we have to offer. Please, guys.
Imagine having to choose between a pink star diamond, the world's most expensive jewel, or a Rolls-Royce Bootail, the most expensive car. Which would you choose? If it were me, I'll choose both. Because why settle for one when you can have both? Now, think about picking from Penec's top-selling estates. But before you decide, let's dive into the details, shall we? Penec is a powerhouse in Nigeria's real estate scene, with prime estates in 3 key locations: Lagos, Abuja, and Houston. In Lagos, Penec offers the estate and edificio. Located at Lekki Scheme 2, just off Ogombo Road, the estate offers 2, 3, and 4 bedroom terraces, semi-detached and fully detached duplexes. It is a realm of excellence, boasting 24/7 electricity, CCTV security, a swimming pool, mini estate plaza, a fully equipped gym, and so much more. Edificio takes it up a notch. Situated opposite Nikon Town, it is a triplex haven that brings automation and access to top-notch recreational and healthcare facilities into your life. In Abuja lies Penec Court, designed for those seeking a modern living upgrade. Penec Court offers spacious 2, 3, and 4 bedroom terrace duplexes, carefully crafted with top-notch finishing. And for those with jackpot plans or who have already jackpot, Penec Meadows Houston is your canvas to create a home that matches your tastes and standards. It offers a serene environment and all the essentials for a sustainable lifestyle. If you could pick one of these remarkable estates, which would it be? Call Penec today with the numbers on your screen.
So for this development, we currently have a monthly instrumental payment plan where you can actually pay a monthly installment. We also have a mortgage plan. So even if you don't have the bulk sum to buy outrightly, there are ways we can structure these payments, and within a year for the monthly payments, and then for the mortgage plan is between 5 to 15 years, depending on terms and conditions from the mortgage bank. So thank you very much, and want to be a co-sponsor of this event. See you next year. Thank you.
Please hold on, Penec. Please, can I have the COO here? Where's the photographer? Let's just capture this moment on camera. Can I have the COO? Pardon me, the photographer? Please, where's the photographer? Can we get the warrant here when we had that moment capture? Can I have the COO here? And maybe other member or team of Penec? Please, we want to capture this as one of our co-sponsors. Thank you very much. They also gave me a hamper pack, so I want to make sure that they have the moment captured. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Penec. Hopefully next year we'll see you again. Finally, we are having the conference communique presentation, and I'd like to call on Professor Femi Obayori to please come up and do that. And then after that, we will officially announce the closing of the 9th edition of the conference. Thank you very much. Please, can you put your hands together for him? Put your hands together for him. Thank you. Please, let's have it up on the slide, Tommy. I want to thank the rest of us still waiting for your patience. It's not an easy task, no doubt, but we have to follow the protocol and conclude fully. Some of us have to go and relax more so that we can carry up with some of the things we need. So, Professor Obayori is going to be speaking on the communique. We have that for the record. Sir is up. Prof is up. Okay. If there's a printed copy, Doctor, where's your printed copy of the communique? While he's waiting for the laptop to come up, we can use that. Because this is being live streamed and recorded, we'll need all of this to be fully captured. I want to thank our camera guys and the live stream guys, so that for the records, this is going to help us have the projection. Thank you very much, please.
Thank you. In absentia, Honorable Commissioner for Health, Lagos State, and participants. Actually, this is a draft of the communique. Ordinarily, we are expected to read everything and correct line by line, but we don't have time for that. So I'll just try to run through and emphasize the conference declaration. So it goes thus: communique of the 7th African Conference on One Health and Biosecurity, themed maximizing benefits and understanding risks of synthetic biology and other emerging biotechnologies in Africa, held on Monday 20th to Tuesday 21st November 2023 at the Radisson Blu Anchorage Hotel, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria. Preamble: the 9th African Conference on One Health and Biosecurity, themed maximizing benefits and understanding risk of synthetic biology and other emerging biotechnologies in Africa, held on Monday 20th to Tuesday 21st November 2023. The 9th edition of the annual conference was organized by Global Emerging Pathogen Treatments Consortium, GET Africa, with the support of Lagos State Government and in partnership with key non-state institutions across the world, with focus on biotechnology, particularly synthetic biology. The 2-day conference provided unique forum for robust interactions to take stock of the potential benefits of synthetic biology and how to promote responsible application and circumvent the associated pitfalls of the technology in Africa and create awareness of related developments at the cutting edge of science. The conference, attended by professionals, members of the academia, and stakeholders across the sectors of society, received presentations from resource persons cutting across healthcare sector, agriculture, the environment, as well as from development sector and civil society. The following observations and recommendations emerged following exhaustive deliberations. Observations. Actually, we have in total 13 observations, which, in a way, summarize the basic points that emerged from the conference. 1, synthetic biology is but one of the modern technologies of concern, such as artificial intelligence, robotics, nanotechnology, and can hardly be considered in isolation of other existential paradigms. 2, synthetic biology holds a great future for bio-based sustainable production and offers applications in diverse areas of human endeavors, including medicine, agriculture, food security, energy security, space systems and exploration, climate resilient systems, and so on. 3. Synthetic biology is still evolving and not yet fully understood by the operators, just as there are fundamental risks associated with it, including biosafety, biosecurity, environmental impact, conservation upsets, undermining of distinction between living things and machines, and potential to aggravate injustices to existing systems of intellectual property rights. 4. Building appropriate research infrastructure and streamlining of research governance is a necessary foundation of innovative research. 5. There is problem of synthetic biology funding in Africa, with foreign and global funds still at the center of it, even though some of the researches are being done in Africa. Government alone cannot provide the infrastructure and training, nor can Africa rely entirely on donor and foreign agency-driven financing of synthetic biology research. 6. African countries are poorly represented among countries involved in bioeconomy, unlike European countries, and some of the constraints of bioeconomy, such as lack of suitable technology, social acceptance, political instability, uncertainties, and competition are more serious in Africa. 7. Emerging proclivities, dimensions, and impact of climate change have gone beyond increased temperature, biodiversity loss, environmental degradation, conflict, and emerging infectious diseases to include the disruption of transportation of consumer goods and medical supplies with potential to aggravate responses to emergencies. 8. Brain health is an important driver of human health and determines outcome in all aspects of life, including economy, politics, and psychosocial well-being. Genomics, synthetic biology, and precision medicine offer limitless opportunities to maximize brain capital. 9. Even where there are vaccine programs in place, poor state of health infrastructure, poor vaccine access, inadequate communication, and public awareness are serious impediments to response to disease outbreaks in Africa. 10. Healthcare delivery in Africa is largely fraught with inefficiencies arising from inadequate and fragmented data, as well as poorly leveraged opportunities offered by robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. 11. Biobanking and genomic information independency are important for Africa's sovereignty and security. Beyond addressing medical research needs, there are also economic benefits and social capitals inherent therein. Then 12. Poor financing strategy is a major impediment to development of Africa's health infrastructure and manpower, with healthcare financing strategy mostly founded on donations and loans, which is not sustainable. And 13, many of the facilities put in place, or some of the facilities put in place across Africa during the COVID-19 pandemic, such as biobanks, sequencers, and isolation centers, have been abandoned and in state of degradation. Now I move to the declaration. Usually, this is supposed to be the high point of the presentation. Conference declaration. Motivated by the realization that synthetic biology, bioeconomy, and biotechnology in the broader sense constitute an inexorable tripod on which rests the future of sustainable material production and wholesome human development, conscious of the fact that knowledge of bioeconomy is low in Africa, even though Africans have great potentials in bioresources and indigenous knowledge, and boast of cultures abhorrent of unsustainable resource appropriation and supportive for biodiversity conservation, aware of the abysmally low investment in bioeconomy and synthetic biology by institutions and the limited capacity of African governments at various levels to respond to this challenge in the face of competing demands, determined to promote bioeconomy, responsible and equitable use of synthetic biology and all biotechnologies. Conference results and declares as follows: to bestow unalloyed commitment to the promotion of synthetic biology and allied technologies in addressing challenges in diverse areas of life, including medicine, agriculture, waste management, and climate resilience. And in pursuit of sustainable resource exploration, exploitation, production, and innovations. To pursue constructive engagement in harnessing and harmonizing government commitments, national and continental venture capitals, and global resources for the development of bioeconomy and synthetic biology infrastructure, training, and skill acquisition, and in support of the best practices in biotechnologies. To work with relevant state and non-state stakeholders at national, regional, and global levels to address ethical, legal, and social issues bordering leveraging the opportunities of synthetic biology, and to drive the development of framework for synthetic biology research policies and framework in Africa. Sorry, research policies and guidelines. That should be guidelines, yes. Research policies and guidelines in Africa. And we have the recommendations. We have 10 recommendations which are just expounding on the declaration, further elucidating on the declaration. Now, as follow-up to the conference declaration, the following recommendations are proposed. In appropriating emerging technologies, African governments and development leaders should focus on training the African mind to be able to pioneer indigenous solutions guided by a philosophy that drives positive change, preserves nature, protects human health, and fosters unity of purpose. This number one is the overarching recommendation. Now, 2, Africa should assume her rightful position in the development and application of synthetic biology. Thus, African countries should sign relevant treaties at all levels, be alive to their responsibilities in funding, regulation, and development of guidelines, while encouraging collaborations among research and development scientists across the continent. 3, African countries need to develop strong, inclusive, regional strategies to promote sustainable development around bioeconomy, embark on deliberate and aggressive promotion of bioentrepreneurship, incentivize innovations, and systematically and equitably phase out inefficient and outmoded models of development. 4, the non-governmental organizations, that is NGOs, women and youth organizations, and civil society, as well as a whole, should be at the forefront of advocacy, networking, development, monitoring, and accountability towards advancing synthetic biology, bioeconomy, and responsible application of biotechnologies in Africa. 5, at the regional level, the establishment of Africa Center for Genomics, Data Management, and Bioinformatics has become imperative, While at national levels, countries should gradually adopt a smart health information platform, SHIP model, approach to aggregating all healthcare information to address inefficiency in healthcare delivery. And 6, African countries should streamline their healthcare financing policies to eliminate contradictions between free healthcare and health insurance, promote domestic resource raising, leverage foreign supports and funding that do not foster dependency, and eliminate jurisdictional confusion among various tiers of healthcare delivery. 7, to be able to respond efficiently to outbreaks, African countries should, as a matter of urgency, strengthen their health policies by investing in infrastructure, manpower development, smart surveillance systems, and vaccine equity. And in the medium term, promote multi-tier collaborations. 8, health authorities should adopt technologically efficient approaches such as artificial intelligence to predict demand and enhance logistics and distribution systems for tackling healthcare delivery, especially in hard-to-reach areas and climate change disrupted ecosystems. And lastly, number 10, there is need to develop a collective framework to ensure that critical assets put in place during the COVID-19 pandemic are protected, maintained, and ready for operation in response to future outbreaks. Thank you. As I said earlier, we are supposed to go through all of this, but we don't definitely have the time.
Thank you very much, Prof. And then thank you to all of the delegates and participants online. And this is for the records. As Prof has mentioned, we will obviously go through the communique and then get some further details involved and included so that we can have that for the records. We have the last year's communique, and it was quite impressive. I've studied it, so to speak, and they're asking that we all take an advantage of that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a big thank you to every single one of you who are still seated. Please put your hands together for yourself. Your patience has been very, very impressive, inspiring, and encouraging. And I want to say it has been a great honor to have coordinated this event, the 9th edition. And I also one more time want to say a big thank you to Dr. Bobadoye Ayodotun, the Chief Operating Officer of GET Consortium, for the opportunity and privilege. Please put your hands together for him. Regardless of all of the challenges, we were able to have this event today. And it has been a successful one by all standards. The fact that we had the government fully represented here is a testament of the fact also that we are doing something right at the GET Consortium. I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Babatunde Taiwo, who has been so amazing working with me, ensuring that the content of the program is followed fully, regardless of some of the challenges that we have. Please, can you put your hands together for Dr. Babatunde Taiwo? Okay, and then, of course, Ifeoluwa Alabi. As a matter of fact, she has been most amazing. She brought the most important delegate into this conference. That delegate is not up to 1 year old, but I can assure you that the reason why we are putting this event together is for them, it's for their concern, so that they will have a future tomorrow to live in a world that does not have the kind of bio threats that they cannot overcome. Please put your hands together for her. And Al Hassan Dantata also has been an amazing part of the team. I want to say a big thank you to you. And Omowumi Okuni, she did a wonderful job today. It's not been easy. One of the most amazing individual in the house here today has been the man who actually read out our communique. You have been so amazing, and I want to say a big thank you. And that is Professor Femi Obayori, Professor of Microbiology, Lagos State University. You were here from the beginning and then to the end, and they captured every single bit of the program. Thank you. And I want to also greet my two elders in the house, Mommy and Mommy. Thank you very much for being here. And they're waving at me too. Great. This is good. Those waves are waves of blessing. I received them. I received them. Thank you very much, ma. I think Madam Dayo and Madam Mutupe. Yes, I got that right. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ mà, ẹ ṣé lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀, ẹ ṣé gbogbo kíni ẹ ṣé mọ̀. Thank you very much for being here. It has been quite inspiring for me being here. My name is Stephen Ipalobolos, and to every single one of you seated, Prof, we thank you all the way from Cameroon. The technical guys, I say big thank you. Adebayo Olawale, thank you so very much. Tomiwa, thank you so much for your camera expertise. You guys have been amazing. I planned to close this conference at 7:30, but this is 6:30. I gave you guys 1 hour extra before the closure. I want to say a big thank you very much. And of course, Dr. Unzuki, thank you very much, all the way from Kenya, but yes, in Nigeria, in Lagos, at the Biobank, and every single one of you, my good friends who I didn't get their names, thank you so very much for all your help. And Ayo, and the rest of the, Ayo, right? At the technical guys, you guys did well. And regardless of the challenges that we had, some of those electrical threats wanted to disgrace us, but we disgraced it, you know. And that's the beautiful thing when you have a team of people working together consecutively to make sure we deliver on all of this. Thank you so much. May God be with you all till we meet again next year, whether in Lagos or Abuja or New York, we don't know yet. But whichever the case might be, we will communicate that to you. Thank you very much. What's the name? Olajumoke. That's the name of the first girl that broke my heart, but I forgive you whatever it is you've done. And it's amazing. Olajumoke has been a very wonderful individual and delegate. We want to say big thanks. Please put your hands together for her as well. Thank you so very much. Please don't believe me, I'm just being naughty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, drive home safely, ride home safely, and then have a good night rest. God bless you till we meet again. Bye-bye from now. AY, over to you, please. Please play some fella or something that can take out the jigger from us. We've had a successful outing. This is time to unwind. All right? Thank you, ladies.